What's up? Hope you're having a wonderful day. Get your mind right. Get your mind right. If you're just waking up, you really need to get your mind right. Anybody else wake up and start immediately telling yourself stuff? Immediately. Like immediately mind shift. Mind shift. I don't know if it's the anxiety, the anxiousness, the excitement. Excitement is not always a good thing. I think it usually is associated. Oh, what's up, Kevin? What's up, Jen? Good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. No news today. I don't think. Well, I seen something about Lindsay Lohan celebrating her 38th birthday, and that like spun me. That spun me. Sometimes I read a news story and it just spins me wildly out, and I go, I can't even take it right now. That's why I say get your mind right. Bandito, what is up, man? Long time no see. Hope you were doing well. Thank you guys for all joining. And for anybody that's new, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. I go live every weekday. We're nipping on the heels of Philly DeFranco. He's touching Philly DeFranco. Oh, and I realized, Pat Murphy, what is going on? Good to see you, Pat. Blessings to you, friend. I realized this the other day. I keep talking about Philly DeFranco, and when I was talking to somebody who does YouTube, they were like, who's that? Philly DeFranco has been on YouTube for 10, 15 years, and he just does news stories. He just talks about the news. He does it Monday through Thursday, and on his webpage it says sometimes Fridays. But he just talks the news. He kind of gives a little bit hint of his opinion. And he used to be real like journalist-y, if that's a word. Beantown, baby. You know it. And then there was a shift. These YouTubers did a great video on Philly DeFranco and how he realized, like, to make money, he had to turn the news from, like, actual journalism to, like, teen bop journalism. Like, kids sing the news. So it has to be very easily digestible. There's not too much opinion. It's obviously not live. But he's, like, the biggest news dude in, like, our generation and younger. Targeted at our generation. On YouTube, I believe he's got to be one of the biggest. That's like just a news commentary, not like a left-leaning or right-leaning, just like here's what's out there. So I figured I should detail that first because I realized there might not be everybody that's deep down the YouTube rabbit hole as I am. So that's who Philly DeFranco is. He does news commentary. He's got like almost 7 million subscribers, and I always say that we are nipping on his heels with the family that's here. Kevin, Jen, Bandito, Pat. And if you're just joining the family, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, because we're catching up to Philly. And we're going to make, that's the amazing thing, we are going to make Philly rearrange his whole YouTube channel. He's going to be like, I can't be competing with this guy who goes live every single weekday when we're just putting out stuff that's recorded. So hit subscribe. Let's change the algorithm. That's how big this channel is going to be. We're going to change the algorithm. I've always said that, and I know it's a weird thing to say, but I've always said exactly what Mr. Beast has in his blind side. He has some blind sight, actually. And the like button. There you go, Jen. Jen is, for all you new cats, to cut you in on the inside joke, Jen is my shit. That stands for Superhuman Intelligence Technician. We do not have AI on this channel. We have humans who help litigate the news, if that's the correct language, but just kind of determine what the truth is. And we usually narrow it down. But for anybody new, say what's up to Jen, Kevin, Pat, Bandito. This is the family here, and if you're just joining, I thank you so much, because it is an amazing family. And like I did a live stream the other night, it was basically to say thank you to you guys, to everybody who has subscribed, everybody who joins in. Because let's be honest, the anxiety levels are up here. That's why I wasn't going to talk too much about the news. And oddly enough, like reading about, I don't know if anybody knows who Lindsay Lohan is. She used to be like a huge celebrity back in 2008 when I was on the radio. Huge. And she kind of had this downfall. And I think there was alcohol and drugs. I know there was alcohol, but I don't know how much. And there were all these incidences and paparazzis, and she kind of disappeared. And then this article talks about how she did a selfie congratulating herself on a happy 38th birthday and that she's happy with her life. And I thought, that's so amazing. And at the time when I was in radio and she was all over the paparazzi things and just like, it just looked like she was snowballing into a really bad place. And I think she did go to a really bad place, but I think she had enough money to walk away and come out okay. And she looks amazing. And I don't know how her life is going. I don't keep up with Lindsay Lohan, but to see her at 38 years old, she's still a young kid to me. And to see that she's doing well and happy. I mean, who cares if you didn't stay in your career? You know, if you're surviving, if you've got money to eat and to live, then that's a win, man. And I wonder if Lindsay Lohan ever thought about the stuff that I want to broach very quickly, especially because the whole family's here. So, I don't know if you guys do this, but every day I'm waking up, and because there's so much stuff going on in my life that is like not by choice, or if I listen to Neville Goddard, it's by choice. It's things that I manifested a long time ago, which, okay. And now I'm working on the other creating my reality and waiting for the 3D to catch up. But I immediately, like every day waking up is, you know, intensely trying to shift radically my attitude from whatever it is, whether it's fear, anxiety, the ego, all these things, and immediately I try to grab. It feels like I'm grabbing hold the reins of a horse when I wake up and like snapping it to and being like, come on, pay attention. This is what we want. This is what we're focused on. This is what we're going to have. This is where we're going to be. I don't know if anybody else wakes up like that. I mean, like literally as soon as my eyes open, that's like, I have this mental shit, like paradigm, like, all right, you're not asleep, you're awake, you need to focus on this. I'm not going to go into what I'm focusing on. So forgive me if it kind of sounds abstract and obscure. Hopefully I'm not too way far out there. And for those who are new, maybe like, this fucking hippie, these hippies. I promise I'm not like that much of a hippie. Only a little bit. Un poquito. And if you're part of the family, like Kevin, Jen, Bandito, Pat, and CJ, and Koo the Freestyler, who I haven't seen in a... Mindfulness really helps me, but you're preaching to the choir. All right, so I'm not a weirdo. I'm not alone on this. That is reaffirming and reassuring to me. Thank you, Bandito. Goddamn, yeah. And so the art of mindfulness is such a weird thing, right? And I never paid it much attention. It was always like something that I was cognizant of. It was definitely in my subconscious, but consciously I wasn't always paying attention. And the greatest teachers in my life, I will say this, the greatest teacher in my life have been mindful to remind me of being mindful. Bear with me on that one. Jeez. So, and what I was saying before is the people who are part of the family know that I've been talking about releasing a Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi video, which it's still in the editing bay. Okay. It's been in the editing bay for like 3 weeks now. It's partially taking a long time because I'm going through this really traumatic event right now with my family. And as soon as it's over, I'm going right back into the grind of editing this video. But the other thing, I'll say at least a week and a half of looking at this video is so hard for me because I believe, and that's why like it really chaps my hide what Tony Robbins is doing right now. Because he has some real psychedelic, whatever you want to call it, like psychological insights to getting your mind right. He really does. Whether or not, whatever you think about him, because I'll get into what I think about him, which is much different than the credit I'm giving him right now. And that's the other duality of this channel if you're just joining. I'll critique shit hard, but it's not without love, if that makes sense. Like when I go hard at stuff, sometimes it's because I have a love and respect for it, which a lot of people, you know, that's kind of been a trick for me in life, or the trick for me to figure out. is that like when I critique stuff, it's not because I hate it. Like Mr. Beast, I critique the shit out of him. And I say it with no ill will. I have no ill will in my heart. I don't want him to be less successful like he could be. And I critique it because sometimes I think people have blind spots to themselves. They don't look in the mirror enough. I spend half the day looking in the mirror, questioning myself, and then having to be mindful of not to do that and just trust. So when I critique stuff, I should explain this more because I think a lot of people easily label me a hater. They easily label me jealous and envious. But you got to remember, I spent over 20 years of my career before I kind of lost my career in radio. I spent over 20 years being a producer. Now, what that entails is I have to keep an eye out for the things not seen or not thought of, which is so difficult. I wasn't good until like the last couple of years. It's really an art form. And it's difficult too, and it's very hard to approach certain things in people because the talent, like Tony Robbins, like Mr. Beast, they're the talent, so they just do. And when they're super uber successful, sometimes they get an air and an attitude of like, well, look at all the success I've had. Like, who are you to critique me? And when they're employing me, I say, well, the reason you hired me is because you're not as successful as you want to be. And I would help people get there. So I premise anything I say about Tony Robbins, or really anyone. Like when I critique people, I'll tell you if I got hate in my heart. I'll tell you if I think somebody's like being malicious or a bully, I'm going all in on them. And I don't do it with no ill will. In this situation with Tony Robbins, I truly believe he has so much wisdom to share. Now let's turn the coin. Because now that I said that, I can't be feeling okay with myself if I just like allowed people to go look up Tony Robbins if you've never heard of him or you haven't watched his usual stuff or his most recent stuff. Because if you haven't watched his most recent stuff, and I pay close attention to him because it's a very tricky and deceitful and malicious way to be when you have all that wisdom and then you use it to dupe people. When you pair up with a con artist like Dean Graziosi, who he is. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, has a page on him about his real estate scams. Dean Graziosi is just the scam artist. That dude has no fucking wisdom. He adds nothing, no value to people. He'll tell you all day he does, but he's a hardcore salesman and he's only in it to get himself rich. Okay? And that's my gut reading, and I'm not backing off that. Tony, on the other hand, I believe he really truly wants to help people. So when Tony gets hemmed up with a Dean Graziosi, it makes me think much less of Tony, and I think he's gotten to a point where he's just in it to cash in, which sucks. So the reason I detail all that is because I've had a real hard time making this critique video because I believe in so much of what Tony says and what he teaches because I think it can help people. We're in the grift economy, 100%. That's a great way to explain it. Thank you, Bandito. You get me. You get me. And this is a grift economy. And that's what's really the disappointing part about Tony, because when you hear him speak, and not all the time, there's a lot of stuff like in his old age, I think he's just like getting lazy with it. And he just kind of throws a lot of stuff at the wall, hoping it sticks. And when they do this obscure, like it could apply to anyone, it really works on people. Which makes me mad because you don't have to do that, Tony. Like, you got enough money, man. And I understand you're saying you believe in the product and you want to help people. But at what point, are you just grifting people? Because what does Dean Graziosi add, besides maybe make you more money? And that makes me really angry because there are people who are vulnerable, who are looking for a way out, or who are looking or feeling, because this is the language they use. They go, we feel we were meant for more. We want to do more. And as much as Tony can teach you, they're also preying upon people that maybe shouldn't be throwing their last $1,000 at Tony and Dean, especially when they don't really deliver what they claim to. But that message, when given for free, here's, really my critique. Tony gives that message for free and just donates his time. I have no problems with it. You'll never see Dean donating his time for free. In fact, half those fucking 3 days I took, he was trying to get me to buy. I'm still getting emails from Dean. We're talking about almost a month later, trying to get me to send me his money. I forgot, because when I did this last year, they sent me emails for like 2 weeks until I unsubscribed. I have to unsubscribe again, but at this point, I'm almost thinking it's funny, because by the time I release the video, it might be a month, 2 months away from the event. And if they're still sending me sending me emails to solicit money from me, like, that just shows what a grift it is. It's like, guys, you're not trying to bet me at this point. You just, like, if I sent you money, you wouldn't ever care if I showed up to your event. You'd just be happy you got my money. But I talk about all this because right now, through this immensely trying time, I'm almost punishingly aware of my mindfulness, like Bandito said. Thank you for that word. Are you guys constantly and hyper vigilant of your mindfulness? Before I went into, that's the other thing I truly understand, like a tragedy or a traumatic event, or some kind of like really, really trying time. It doesn't always have to be a tragedy, just a very trying time will hyper focus you into being mindful. And that's where I am right now. But what I realized, and this is like the really fucking disturbing part, is that the stuff I've learned from Tony Robbins, because you can't just be consciously yes, you're talking to yourself all day, right? And I'm consciously refocusing my thoughts, and the thoughts that are not going to benefit me, I'm letting go, which is very hard to do, because you have to, it's very easy to entertain bad thoughts. Very easy. If you take anything away from this live stream today, take this away. You don't have to entertain. Your mind might like a bear trap, snap down on a bad thought. You don't have to. And you have to tell yourself that. I know this sounds nuts. I know I sound crazy right now. And I only speak with this like I'm an authority because I do it. Because it's so easy. Like, you can get trapped into that. Jen, I always try to find the positive in anything. Like I tell my kids, negativity breeds more negativity. That is very true. 100%. But how do you implement it? That's my question, Jen, and I would love to hear how you implement finding the positive, because that doesn't come easy to me. And I'm guessing there might be more people it doesn't come easy to. There are some people, and I am envious. I will tell you when I'm envious. I'm envious of people like Jen who can find that positive angle. I have to look harder. It's like a Rubik's Cube for me, or a maze. It's like doing a maze. Like, I have to figure out. There are some times where it's very easy, but through the day-to-day, that's the trick of the mind, not letting your mind be a bear trap on those negative moments, those negative thoughts. And once you do clamp down on them, you realize, oh, I shouldn't be entertaining this next. And then you focus on the good. And the days become immensely longer when you're doing that. But I'm telling you this, not knowing, but knowing, if that makes any sense. I'm telling you this like I haven't seen the proof yet, but I just believe it to be proven that finding that positivity, it's just like working out. It's just like, and I say it because of my other experiences, it's just like practicing anything else. You actually train your mind to do that. So if you consciously work on this all day, focus on what you want, focus on even if it's very tough right now, like after this live stream, I'm going to do very difficult things, like emotionally trying, like it's almost like I'm going to be having outer body experiences all day, because as emotional as what I'm about to get into is, and what I have to do for the next few days is, I have to mentally go somewhere else. And I know this all I must fucking sound crazy. Jesus, why am I doing this on a live stream? I must just fucking sound nuts. I'm sorry. But I feel like this could maybe help someone else, because I'm really struggling with it. Like, today was at a point where I was at work and I'm like, oh my God, I don't get anxiety attacks. I do not. I've had one 3 months ago, and before that, it was 19 years ago when my dad died. 2 anxiety attacks. And today I felt another one creeping up. Like, you feel like you're going to have a heart attack. You're like, am I going to die? Am I going to die? What is going on? And it felt it creeping up, but you got to power through. But it's not just, see, that's the weird thing. It's not just like powering through and pretending you're okay, because it's okay to not be okay. I'm a big advocate of that. But it's more of like, I need to refocus and be like, this is what I want. What am I going to focus on? And the reason I know that works is because, and I know this sounds crazy, but throughout my life, like, I fucking picked up from Massachusetts. I lived here almost all my life. And I just moved to California. And people were like, what are you doing? Oh, well, originally I was supposed to move with 2 of my college buddies. And then they just didn't go. And I was like, I'm going. And people thought I was crazy. I was like, I'm going to get on a morning show in San Diego. And I'm just going to be on a radio morning show. And they're like, why do you think that? And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I don't question how. I'm just doing it. And I got to go into the story of this, because when I tell the story, or if you know my history and you know the story, it's filled with so many, like, you should never have had, like, there's no way that happened, you know? And it did. And I just, you know what I mean? Like, there was never a moment in my mind where I was like, oh, this might not happen. Like, I was working a pyramid scheme job. I was homeless at one point. Like, it's insane. But the whole time, it didn't matter, like, how horrible my life was. I was just like, I'm going to do this. And people would be like, how? And I was like, don't ask me how. It's just going to happen. There's a way. And it did. And I moved to the Pacific Northwest from New Jersey just cause. Bandito, are you serious? I don't mean to pause right here, but me and my wife just again last night, because I keep trying to push her to move to Seattle. I want to move to Seattle. I don't know if you live in Seattle. I would love to move to Portland. I just don't know if Portland's a big enough city to like make enough money. I don't know. I priced everything out in Seattle, but I don't know if you are in the Seattle area. If so, we might need to talk more. But that's the other thing. Like, I forget, 6 months ago, I was like, we're going to move to Seattle. We're going to Seattle. And now it's kind of the bug's in her head. She's like, what about 1 year? Let's try to make it a year and go to Seattle. And I'm like, listen, if you just want to go tonight, I don't know how we'll survive, but we could just go. I'm like, pack the kids up. Let's go. And the other reason Seattle is because I want to see orca whales in real life. I need to do that. Something about the forest in Seattle and orca whales and wolves that I feel like it's calling me. It's like San Diego. I don't know why I picked San Diego. It's not like it's again, this is why I don't talk out loud, okay? This is exactly why, you guys. But I get comfortable because it's Bandito and Jen and Kevin. I start talking about intimate details of the craziness of inside my head. What the fuck is wrong with me? Anyways, let me read this. My life fell apart a few times. It's super hard at times to stay positive. I had super bad anxiety because my kids, I knew I had no choice but to pull through. There we go. Just keep going and you will pull through. I wanted to move to Washington, but my boyfriend says no. I lived there 9 years when I was in the Army. Closer to PDX in Vancouver, Washington. Listen, yeah, something about that Pacific Northwest like keeps calling to me. Who knows? I can't fucking believe I'm going into this because I don't talk about this with many people. In fact, I don't talk about this with anybody besides like my wife and my brother. But yeah, maybe in a year or two or so. I don't, again, these are the things where it's like, don't ask me how. I just feel like it's happening. Like the pieces of your life have to reorganize, and you have to maybe sometimes go through like some weird stuff where you're like, this doesn't make sense. This isn't the direction I want to go. But then boom, you're like, oh, it set me up for this. And I'm not saying that's always how it happens, but in my life, things have happened like that. And when I look back, I'm like, there's no fucking way. If you told me at this point I'd be doing that in a year, like I just would have never believed you. And it's hard to remember that. So that's what I wanted to talk about, is that radical shift in attitude is like sometimes when you're grinding, like Jen said, like you are grinding, the anxiety, you got kids, you have no choice. Remind me of my wife, she says that. She's like, you got no choice. And you know the saddest part about that, and I'm not going to dwell on this long because I do not want to bear trap this thought. And this is exactly the example I'm talking about. So my wife will say that exact thing, Jen. And she'll say, you have no choice. You got kids. You have no choice. You just got to go. And my retort to that is like, my dad had a choice. My dad took his own life. He 100%. He had 2 teenage sons. I just turned 21 or almost turned 22. I forget. I just turned 21 or 22. And my brothers are 15 and 16. And my dad fucking made a choice. Worst choice ever happened to me and my brothers in our fucking lives. And maybe that's why people say you don't have a choice, because they refuse to acknowledge any other choice but to go on for their kids. So I credit you, Jen. Good for fucking you. That's awesome. And yep, you and my wife, you guys got it right. But unfortunately, and this is the stuff that, is buried deep down, the scar tissue I talk about, when you have a traumatic event like that you survive and the scar tissue lives there, those are the things that can haunt you, that your mind can hook onto. But you go, nah, that's not a thought I entertain. But more importantly, like that's something that happens. You're right. But you see, yeah, exactly. But you see, and this is really what I've been trying to see. That's the other thing you'll really notice about me. Like, I'm a bit feral. Because, I didn't have a dad at those crucial times. Me and my brothers did not have a dad at those crucial times where it was like, and for a lot of my life, I've been like, I need a mentor. I want a mentor. I've had mentors at times, but you want someone to, just be able to. That's part of what this podcast is. Believe it or not, the people who will talk shit to me or troll me, it's not that I take it very personal, but I take it and I try to reflect on it. Like, what are they really trying to say? Sometimes people are just being mean. But I think a good mentor also acts as not someone who just builds you up, but, is there to kind of tell you when you're fucking out of line. So that radical shift has to be a mindfulness act. And I think that explains a lot too, Jen, that you have no choice. And when you refuse to focus on the mess and focus on what your message should be. I stole that from Dean Graziosi. Dean. You can focus on the mess or the message. Fuck you guys. Stealing people's money. Anyways. I told you, when I don't like somebody like Dean Graziosi or Jimmy Fallon, those guys can kick rocks. But really, it isn't a choice. It's but you have to be mindful to understand it's not a choice to focus on the negative, to focus on, what you need. And that's the other thing. So this has been the real radical shift for me. It's not just focusing on what I need to get done. And this is what I've been self-teaching myself through listening and reading and all these different ways to try and learn. But it's not just okay, I know what I need to get done today. Let's focus on that. Let's plan it out. I'm very good at that. Working in radio, you have to figure out the daily organization of things, and then a monthly, or a weekly, a monthly, even yearly. You have to have that mindset. But what I'm talking about is the unimaginable, or to some people, the unimaginable. And that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Because I don't know if you're doing this. And if you are, then man, I'm behind. I'm late to the game. But if you're not, let me suggest this. Set your mind, radically shift your mind to something that is your dream. Like when I was trying to get on radio, there was no how. It was just, that's what I knew. And that was the dream, and that's where I was going to be. So whatever it is, I don't know what your dream is. Whether it's a vacation, whether it's a better job that you can't even fathom and you don't need to know the details, or whether it's, owning a home and you don't need to know how you're going to get the money. Whatever it is, focus on that. You still do the day-to-day stuff, but focus on where you want to be at the most supreme part of your life that maybe it's hard for you to imagine, because it's so easy to stay within our reality. Our reality, is dictating sometimes our thoughts. And I say, kick that shit. Fuck all this reality. That's what I was saying earlier. The outer body experience for me is that I'm envisioning where I am with my kids, where I'm with my wife, how my wife is doing when she don't have to work anymore. All these amazing things. That's why I say it's an out of body experience, because I'm getting the grind done. But in my head, all of those things, and again, I don't know how, but it's just things where I just have to picture that. So hopefully you can imagine yourself there too. And hopefully it helps you if you're going through something tough right now. I don't know. I know comfort breeds complacency, and complacency can, sometimes make us time travel, and all of a sudden we realize we lost, all this time. And I hope that, it doesn't take something difficult to shake things up for you. And I really hope that, CJ said it great in the comments. I forget how she said it, but remember that you have dreams too. Your dreams die in your comfort zone, 100%, 100%. So that's really because I got to wrap this up. I got to go do some stuff. But really what I want to remind you guys is don't forget your dreams. Especially Jen, I know what you're going through with having kids and just get stuff done in those days. And sometimes we just forget the dream, obviously. And that's really what I wanted to. You guys those dreams, focus. Set an alarm in your phone if you can't be mindful throughout the day because there's so much going on. And just type in, remember my dream. Remember my dreams. And set that alarm. Whenever you have a moment throughout the day that you'll have that moment to yourself, when that alarm goes off, you take some time to just envision yourself in that dream wherever you want to be. All right? Do it for me. I got to go do some difficult stuff. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, Bandito, Jen, Kevin, Pat, everybody who stopped by. And if you're new to the channel, this isn't the typical kind of news commentary. I didn't really talk about the news today. Again, this next week for me is going to be very, very trying, very, very difficult. So just bear with me. I gave you my word that I will be here every weekday, so I'll be here every weekday. And listen, there's still news I want to talk about and stuff I want to talk about, but right now it's just a very trying time. So if I veer off the course and go down into some metaphysical, hippie, crazy fucking attitude adjustment talk, just bear with me for a couple of days. Okay, just sidebar segment. Sidebar. Oh man, so yeah, just bear with me if I have some really fucking crazy hippie talk for a couple of days. If I start breaking out crystals and, patchouli oil. I have patchouli oil and crystals, but, just bear with me. Just bear with me, okay? I promise we'll get into and you guys can always suggest anything that you've seen in the news or want to talk about, too. I have things, it's just some days it's this overwhelming, again, I don't know if someone's going to see this, if it's just reaffirming, Jen and Bandito confirming that, we're not fucking crazy and, your dreams die in your comfort zone. I have crystal. I do too. So, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where I think really more than anything, too, I'm kind of leaning on you guys to make it through. Very difficult time for me, emotionally. My ego is taking a huge hit. Hearing my kids be in a pain that I can't remedy is unlike anything else. Experiencing that as a dad is very, very difficult. Very, very trying, Very, very trying. And like I told you guys before, and for anybody new who joins the family and hits subscribe and the notification bell, please do that. You guys help me. You guys help me get through. It's hard to put into words how much I'm grateful for you guys. So thank you. I got some difficult stuff to do. I don't want to go, but I've said my piece. So hopefully this helps somebody out there. Focus on your dreams. Don't forget your dreams. All right.